So first of all, I'm a big ASU guy. So when I first moved to Arizona, 7 years ago, I quickly became entrenched in that ASU U of A rivalry. So I have zero love for U of A. That being said, I grew up a Hawaii kid. Hawaii was my team growing up, and I still follow them now. And the fact that they are back to the type of offense they used to run under June Jones is very exciting. I was watching the game live. Most of my daughter and my fiance were sleeping. I was watching that last stop, and I mean, to be honest, it was beautiful because I love seeing U of A fall in their faces. And if they can do it against Hawaii, and the way that they did it, I mean, Hawaii gave them every chance to win that game. 6 turnovers, they gave them every chance, and it's just really nice to see U of A just continually, fall flat. And it was fun for the first few days because it was a simple, reminder of, hey, you guys lost, but guess what? You also lost last November where you blew an 18-point fourth quarter lead against ASU. So it was just another dagger that you could just kind of twist in them.
Fantastic.
All right, man. Well, thank you once again for joining us. Why don't you go ahead and plug your social channels?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, guys. But so I'm on Twitter at Ryan Advoderata. If that's too long to remember, hey, I'm not mad at you. So follow us on FTC_Cardinals. Trust me, man, I went through most of my life with no one being able to pronounce my last name. And there are times where I still have to say it out to myself and to spell it. So, it happens. But yeah.
You sure that's not CTE?
Damn, that's offensive.
Man, I mean, to be fair, I mean, that's 11 letters and a whole lot of vowels. So,
Ryan, don't let a man who thinks that Frankie Beverly and Mays Before I Let Go was a terrible song for a cookout. Don't ever let this man slander you.
All right, man. Well,
man, I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you once again for joining us, and we'll have you on again soon.
Yep, definitely. Looking forward to it, man.
Keep up the great work. Peace. All right, man. It's always good to get our favorite Arizonian in here. Give us some good content.
Other than my sister, my favorite Arizonian.
All right, man. So last up, we got the Seahawks. I got a pre-recorded interview with Lee Vowell, opposite of consonant vowel, who actually writes for 12th Man Rising, the Seahawks fan-sided blog. So I'll just let the work speak for itself. Go ahead and hit play. And I have with me on the Touchdowns and Tangents hotline Lee Vowell from 12th Man Rising, the fan-sided Seahawks blog. Now, Lee, thank you once again, as I already said, for joining me. But, I don't want to take up too much time, so I'm just going to jump right into it. The Seahawks made a lot of headlines this week getting Jadeveon Clowney. Are they actually going to be able to contend with the Rams and the rest of the NFC after that move?
That's the big question, right? And thanks for having me on.
Yeah. No worries.
I really appreciate it. I think the thing that with Clowney that helps the Seahawks even more than the pass rush, to be honest, is the run defense that he brings. Seattle struggled mightily against the run last year, and they had Frank Clark. So against the pass, sacking the quarterback or pressuring the quarterback wasn't necessarily the issue. It was stopping the run. Clowney can do both those things. Maybe not get pressure the quarterback as well as Clark, but helping stopping the run. Does he make them on his own along with Ziggy Ansah, who we haven't seen yet in the preseason, who should be ready to go in week 1? A contender for the division. That I'm not sure. The Rams are still on paper more talented, especially with Cooper Kupp coming back.
Yeah.
But I think Clowney definitely gives them the ability to contend for the division, or even not for the division, at least put them in the spot for position where they can make the wild card again.
When you look at them on paper, and especially when you compare them to the Rams, there's been a lot of questions about, wide receiver and DB in Seattle. So I'm just curious what you make of those two positions, and do you think they can compete there with the Rams?
Well, the Rams are much better receiver, and the Seahawks have, they're so young at receiver. They have Tyler Lockett, and then there's a whole bunch of other guys.
Yeah.
And the thing with Russell Wilson, to be honest, is he's always had either Jermaine Kearse, which sounds crazy, or Doug Baldwin. Both those guys are kind of security blankets. I don't think he still has that rapport with Lockett, but if Seattle really wants to do well with the passing game this year, Lockett better be that security blanket. He better take Baldwin's spot, to be honest. But the rest of the guys, Jerron Brown had 5 touchdown receptions and 16 catches last year. Great percentage, but a huge lack of targets. David Moore, one game last year he was 0 for 5 as far as targets go, and the rest are just basically rookies. So the Rams are much better at that position, at least on paper, just because of the experience they have. The Seahawks they definitely have some raw talent, but relying on rookies, in the NFL at receiver especially is not a key to success for most teams. So that's a big question mark. Probably won't be answered until later in the season. As far as the secondary goes, Bradley McDougald is really good. I don't think there's going to be an issue with his position. The question becomes, can Shaquille Griffin be a lot better than he was last year, and can Trey Flowers make that big leap at the other cornerback in the second season? He was good last year, but he needs to be even better in his second year. And then who's going to play opposite McDougald? At this point, I think a lot of fans are hoping it's Marquise Blair, but he hasn't really been healthy enough to really show what he can be. So safety is a big concern, especially with no Earl Thomas, even though he left after week 4 last year. The cornerbacks have to improve, and nickelback's a concern. So you hit on it. Both those groups are a big concern. If we'll find out early in the season how good they are.
Does it feel different that this is the first offseason where it feels like offensive line isn't the center of your weaknesses?
Yeah, to be honest, offensive line last year, a lot of people were like, I think it's going to be better. Dwayne Brown has made the whole unit a lot better.
Yeah.
But now they're pretty solid. Jermaine Ifedi under, first year.
Finally getting it together a little bit.
Yeah, Jermaine Ifedi was a lot better last year than he was under Tom Cable, and maybe just Tom Cable's a bad coach. Mike Solari did wonderful things with him, to be honest. And the rest of the line's fine. Even if they lose 1 or 2 players, I think they have depth there. But, yeah, it is a nice feeling. It's got to be nice for Russell Wilson, right? When he's dropping back to pass or whatever, it's like he's got to be thinking, I'm not going to have to get rid of this ball in 2 seconds. I can actually hold on to it for maybe 3 seconds now. So, yeah, it's nice.
And on that note, I know you've mentioned some names, but I'm just curious, who's a player that you're really excited for, or the 12 is really excited for, that maybe, mainstream fans or media aren't necessarily buzzing about?
Well, yeah, and that's a good question, because I want to say anybody other than DK Metcalf, but all 12 are talking about is DK Metcalf. National media is a buzz about him as well, just because he's a physical freak, and he's actually, of course, he hasn't really played a whole lot of preseason. They were holding them out, I think, pretty intentionally a lot. He probably could have played. If last week had been a real game, he probably would have played.
They don't want to expose him just yet. They like the intimidation factor. They like the intimidation factor he brings.
Exactly, it's huge. But other than Metcalf, I think under the radar, John Ursua, who's from Hawaii, who's 25 years old, he's a rookie, took a couple years off to do a Mormon mission. He's going to fit in that slot position where Doug Baldwin used to be. He's not the fastest. He's quick, and he looks like Baldwin in a way. He's about the same size and runs with the same kind of quickness, but he could be a guy who ends up with 60 catches this year in his rookie season, because he fills a role that Seattle doesn't really have a player to take that position. He looks good. He's not going to put up like 1,500 yards receiving, although that'd be awesome if he did. But if he got to 800 yards, that would be spectacular.
Yeah, and on that note, speaking of expectations, this front seven, you guys are finally healthy. You guys have drafted pretty well, hit or miss there, but more well than bad. So, and now you got Clowney and Ziggy. So, what are your expectations for the front seven of the defense?
Yeah, I mean, again, on paper, they look great. Of course, Jaron Reed's going to be out for the first 6 games, suspended because of a domestic violence issue. My concern with the defensive line as a whole, I think the ends are going to be fine, especially with L.J. Collier once he gets his, up to speed as a rookie.
Yeah.
They have depth at end. My concern is going back, a couple of years, really, no interior pass rush.
Yeah.
Those first 6 games are going to be rough because there's not going to be any Reid. So Poona Ford could be great at stopping the run, but they got to get something up the middle as far as pressure, making the quarterback feel like he has pressure in his face instead of just along the ends. Front 7 on paper is great, especially a linebacker group, but they got to get an interior pass rush.
All right, man. And then my last question is, you already talked about challenging for a wild card, but what would be the worst case scenario for the Seahawks season in your mind?
Russell Wilson getting hurt. If he gets hurt and Geno Smith comes in. Geno Smith actually looked okay in the preseason, but that's a whole different ball of wax, obviously. If Geno Smith comes in, the team maybe could go 7-9, and that's best case scenario. They don't make the playoffs. Losing Russell Wilson is, it just says a lot when the team makes their roster announcement and they only have one quarterback on the roster, knowing that Smith would come back because nobody else is going to pick him up. So, yeah, losing Russell Wilson would be atrocious.
Okay, great. So then let me just ask you this. I know you've been writing for, 12 Man Rising for a few years. So just real quick, how did you get involved with that? And I know it's kind of your second shift job. So I'm just curious, what that means to you and why you take time to do it.
Yeah, it does help pay the bills. I'm not going to make any jokes about that. But, I used to live in Seattle. I wish I was still there. I actually will be back there in just a few years. Love the Seahawks. I actually wrote for a different site about the Seahawks for 2 or 3 years before that, and then Sports Illustrated asked me to come on. Cool. It's just the love of writing, right? If you follow a team and then you're asked to do it, it's like, okay, yeah, no brainer. And I get paid to do it. Yeah,
why not?
Me up. Yeah.
All right, man. So before I let you go, why don't you go ahead and tell people where they can find you, find your work, social media, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Twitter at Lee Vowell. Pretty simple because I have an unusual name. 12th Man Rising is the website. And then if you want to follow 12th Man on Twitter, it's just at 12th Man_rising.
All right, man. Well, thank you for coming on, and maybe we'll do this again during the season.
Yeah, anytime. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
But yeah, man, that was Lee Vowell. Shout out to him. 12 Man Rising, fan-sided. One of my former affiliates. But we don't talk about that.
Conflict of interest?
But fuck, man. I think that's it. Our kickoff special's over. The AFC West. The AFC West, the NFC West. Bro, turn off your phone.
I thought I did.
The AFC West, NFC West previews officially over. Shout out to everybody who took some time out of their night to come on here and share their expertise on their favorite teams and their teams that are covered. It was honestly a lot to really set it up. The
most diverse show ever?
Yeah, for sure. We actually have to get white guys to get our diversity quota up anyways, so.
Did you ever think we'd make it like that? Kind of funny.
We always talked about doing a show that never really relied on guests, but I just felt like it would be cool to really cover the spectrum the best that we could, because as I mentioned before, it's we have 49ers fans, or I know 49ers fans, or I know Seahawks fans, or I know Chargers fans, and they're like, well, you only kind of talk about the Raiders and the Rams and whatever else is going on, so I don't always feel included, and Mykell's always trying to come on here and talk Chiefs, so it's I just wanted to kind of get all that, and we never talk Broncos, because who wants to talk about the Broncos?
No one likes the Broncos.
But so I really wanted to kind of cover the whole basis and really get some good people on here to share their expertise, and I feel like I did a good job. I got a wide spectrum of people who could talk, who knew what they were talking about, who had some good analysis, who, also were able to share a little bit about themselves and their work and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's great. It's some interesting stories, some interesting backstories. And again, Ryan got my back when it comes